All right, so if you're building with AI agents, you already know the landscape is just a minefield of hype and competing tools. And picking the wrong one, it can totally sink your project before you even get off the ground. So in this explainer, we're going to cut right through all that noise to give you a really powerful way of thinking about how to choose the right framework every single time. Let's dive in.
This right here is the whole ballgame. And look, it's not really about which LLM you're using. The success or failure of your entire project often comes down to a choice you make before you even write a single line of code. The framework. You get this wrong, and you are just setting yourself up for a world of pain down the road. So, why is this one choice so incredibly critical? Well, it's because every single one of these frameworks is built on a totally different philosophy, a different set of assumptions about how a problem should be solved. Picking the wrong one is like trying to build a skyscraper using the blueprints for a treehouse. It's never going to work.
Okay, so to really pick the right tool, we have to dig a little deeper. Because when you strip everything else away, every AI agent, I don't care if it's a tiny little bot or some massive system, it's really just trying to solve the same three fundamental problems. Let's break those down.
It all boils down to just these three things. First, there's reasoning. What should I do next? Then there's state, which is just memory. What do I remember from what's already happened? And finally, execution. What can I actually do? What tools do I have? Think about it like this. Every framework is just a different recipe for mixing these three ingredients together. All right, now let's get to the fun part, the tools themselves. We're going to take a look at 4 of the biggest players right now: langChain, LangGraph, CrewAI, and Google's ADK. And as we walk through these, just keep this in the back of your mind. Each one is just a different take, a different philosophy for solving those core problems of reasoning, state, and execution.
Okay, first up, the big one, the one everybody's heard of, langChain. Its sweet spot? It's for tasks that are heavy on data and tools, but kind of light on complex multi-step logic. You should think of it as a brilliant coordinator for your data.
Yeah, a perfect example is a customer support bot, right? It doesn't need to have some deep philosophical debate. It just needs to do its job. Dig through some internal docs, maybe pull up a company policy, and just give the user a straightforward answer. It's a linear process, pure retrieval and response. That's classic langChain territory.
But, and this is a big but, here's the trade-off. langChain is incredibly convenient right out of the box. The problem is that convenience hides a ton of complexity. It abstracts things away, which is great at first, but when something eventually breaks, and it will, debugging feels like you're searching for a needle in a haystack. It can be so painful.
And that pain of debugging is exactly what leads us to langGraph. You have to understand, this isn't just a minor update, it's a totally different way of thinking. You're shifting from just engineering prompts to engineering entire workflows. You're not just fiddling with prompts anymore. No, you are building an actual stateful machine that can think through multiple steps.
So, imagine a coding agent. It has to try to write some code, then it's got to actually execute it. Then it needs to check, hey, did that work? Are there any errors? And if it failed, it has to be smart enough to go back and try again. That's a cycle. It's a loop that needs memory and the ability to change its plan based on what happens. And here's the kicker. Trying to build that kind of loop, that self-correction in regular langChain, it's an absolute nightmare. But in langGraph, that's what it was literally built for. It's designed specifically for these complex, cyclical workflows. It's trivial.
Okay, let's switch gears completely and talk about CrewAI. This is a totally different philosophy. If langGraph is all about precise, machine-like control, CrewAI is, well, it's about building a team of specialists that collaborate almost like people. It prioritizes that feel of human collaboration over rigid system control. Think about how a content team works in the real world, right? You've got your researcher who goes out and gathers all the info. Then the writer drafts the article. And finally, the editor comes in to critique it and polish it up. You don't micromanage them, you give them roles and a goal. That's the essence of CrewAI.
So what's the catch? Well, here it is. By setting it up like a human team, it feels super intuitive. It's easy to get started. But you lose something that is absolutely crucial for production systems: determinism. You can't be 100% sure that the same input will give you the exact same output every single time. And for a business, that can be a pretty big risk.
All right, that brings us to our last framework, Google's Agent Development Kit, or ADK for short. Look, ADK is not trying to be the flashiest or the most flexible tool out there. It has one job and one job only: Be enterprise-ready, reliable, and deeply integrated from day one.
ADK is designed to live and breathe inside the Google Cloud ecosystem. It hooks right into tools like BigQuery, Google Search, and Cloud Run. So the whole point is, if your company is already all in on Google's tech stack, ADK gives you this battle-tested, ready-to-go pipeline right out of the box.
And that's the strategic choice you're making with ADK. You're basically trading some of that wide-open flexibility you get with other frameworks for the sheer speed and rock-solid reliability of deploying inside a mature enterprise system. It's a trade-off, for sure.
Okay, so we've walked through 4 very different frameworks, 4 different philosophies. But now we're going to tie it all together with what I think is the most important part of this whole explainer. This is the mental model that's going to change how you make these decisions forever. First things first, I need you to completely forget the old way of doing this. Stop looking at feature checklists. Stop comparing what each framework can do. Seriously, it's a trap, and it's how you end up picking the wrong tool for your problem.
Instead, I want you to do this. Choose your framework based on how you expect your agent to fail. You need to figure out how your agent is most likely to fail. Because once you know that, you can pick the framework that's specifically designed to prevent that exact failure.
Okay, so let's walk through this matrix. It's actually pretty simple. So if your agent keeps giving you just plain wrong answers, that's not a framework problem. That's a model problem. You need a better model. But if it's failing because it's taking the wrong steps in the wrong order, that's a flow problem. That's langGraph. If your different agents just can't seem to work together effectively, that's a collaboration problem. You need CrewAI. And finally, if you're just stuck on trying to get it to connect to your data and tools, that's an integration problem. And that's where langChain or ADK shine.
All right, let's bring it all home with one final hot take summary of the entire landscape as it looks today.
So here's the real talk, the hot take on how this usually plays out. Beginners, they almost always start with CrewAI because it just feels so easy and intuitive. But the pros, the folks who need that granular, deterministic control, they almost always end up in langGraph. And the big enterprises, the ones who value stability and integration over everything else, they're going to lean on ADK.
And that, right there, is the most important thing to remember. Look, the names of these frameworks, langChain, CrewAI, whatever, they're going to change. New tools are going to pop up next year. But this way of thinking, this logic of diagnosing a problem by its failure mode and then picking the right architecture, that is the timeless skill. That's what separates a good AI engineer from a great one.